Bueno, en este momento me gustaría invitar a subir al escenario a Cristian Martín Pérez Carrión, que es director general de Educaria. Pido un aplauso para él, por favor. Porque vamos a tener una pequeña charla interesante con Cristian, así como con todos los entrevistados que me vais a ver, debatir un poquito, muy brevemente. Hemos tenido previamente una introducción para conocernos hasta ahora, que nos hemos desvirtualizado y ahora estamos en 3D, como nos gusta, por otra parte. Y es muy interesante. A mí me gustaría arrancar, Cristian, si te parece, brevemente. Yo creo que a todos los que estamos aquí no nos resulta extraño Educaria, pero bueno, puede ser que alguien de repente, por cierto, vamos a saludar también porque habrá gente que nos está siguiendo online, ¿sabes? Es que los eventos del futuro y del presente van a ser híbridos. Entonces, gracias, que no lo he dicho a todos los que estáis ahí siguiendo el streaming también, independientemente de que, pues lógicamente, no hayáis podido acompañarnos de forma presencial. Decía, ¿te parece que arranquemos contando qué es Educaria?
Venga, perfecto. Gracias, Esther. Buen día, buenos días a todos. Bueno, sumarme, que es increíble estar todos juntos, la verdad que un placer enorme. Bueno, si Ramón se sentía el tráiler de la película, yo me siento el anuncio antes de la película, pero bueno, vamos a intentar ser breves.
Presión.
Perfecto, perfecto. Bueno, aunque muchos de vosotros nos conocéis, Educaria es una compañía 100% dedicada al sector educativo desde hace más de 50 años. Estamos en España, en Cataluña, por supuesto, y en Latinoamérica. Nuestra Suite Alexia, que muchos de los presentes son usuarios, es una solución global para la gestión, la comunicación, la enseñanza, el aprendizaje. Y como siempre decimos, es una solución que se presenta al centro de una manera abierta y conectada, ¿no? Aquí hablaremos mucho de conexión y de que las herramientas se entiendan. Pues la nuestra así la presentamos y así entendemos que los centros tienen que trabajar con ecosistemas digitales y así Alexia, por lo menos, es como entra en un centro educativo.
De hecho, a mí me gustaría preguntarte, porque también vamos a hablar, lo hemos destacado desde el principio, mucho de colaboración. Y en este sentido, Cristian, desde una empresa de tecnología, ¿cómo colaboráis en la digitalización de las instituciones educativas?
Bien, Esther, o sea, es muy complicado resumir, ¿no?, todo lo que es un proyecto digital de centro, pero para mí hay dos factores clave a la hora de colaborar. Nosotros, desde los proveedores de tecnología, lo que tenemos que ser conscientes del rol que ocupamos en ese proyecto digital. Incluso aunque seamos, digamos, el integrador total de todas las soluciones, ¿no? Pero es muy importante, no es lo mismo ser un proveedor de sistemas de gestión, que de contenido digital, que de dispositivos, que del MS. Por lo tanto, importante asumir el rol. Y luego, otra pata muy importante es entender que cada proyecto digital de centro es único. No podemos industrializar los proyectos digitales de centro. Y esto lo debemos entender que nos condiciona desde el modelo de contexto digital de aulas, es decir, la adquisición de dispositivos, eso nos condiciona su mantenimiento o la estrategia, la metodología o el modelo de enseñanza de un centro también nos vuelve a condicionar cuáles serán las herramientas que necesitaré. Hay una cosa muy importante que nosotros también desde Educaria siempre decimos, que es la forma de tomar las decisiones. No es lo mismo que una red de centros, imaginemos, tome decisiones unificadas para todos, que cada centro pueda ser independiente en algunas cuestiones, o incluso que un docente en su ámbito de decisión pueda tomar ciertas decisiones. Esto hace que el ecosistema sea más o menos complejo. Y para finalizar, creo que hay un punto clave que hace ese proyecto digital único, que es la cultura del centro o de la red de centros. Esto hay que entenderlo. Aunque haya patrones comunes, hay identidades propias, ¿no? Por lo tanto, desde nuestro punto de vista, al final, seas el proveedor de lo que sea, lo que tienes que buscar es tres cosas. Adaptación al proyecto educativo del centro. En segundo lugar, dar soluciones en la medida posible abiertas para que esa información el centro pueda tratarla como él considere y, desde nuestro punto de vista, integrables también, ¿no? En la medida de lo posible que esas soluciones se integren con ecosistemas diversos y ricos que pasan en el centro.
Claro. Y para finalizar, Cristian, ¿cómo podemos ayudar a los centros educativos en esa labor de empoderar a los alumnos, que sean autónomos, que sean realmente los protagonistas de su aprendizaje?
Bueno, aquí, que es un congreso de tecnología, obviamente, yo diría que el primer titular sería decir que la tecnología es un mero facilitador. Aquí lo importante, definitivamente, es la labor del docente y el marco de acompañamiento que presente el centro. Y la labor del docente, al final, el docente, no nos equivoquemos, es imprescindible. El que genera experiencias únicas y personalizadas hacia el alumno es el docente. cuanto mayor personalización, mayor impacto. Esto lo sabemos todos, ¿no? Por lo tanto, a ese docente lo que tenemos que darles son herramientas que se adapten a su metodología, que le permitan compartir sus estrategias de aula o sus materiales con otros docentes, quitarle el tiempo que son de tareas sistemáticas que solo la tecnología le puede llevar, para que le pueda dedicar tiempo al alumno, precisamente para empoderarle. Ese tiempo, al final, es generarle rutas de aprendizaje personalizado y experiencias que le motiven y que, sobre todo, linken con su realidad motivacional. Estas experiencias, al final, tienen que ser retos y tienen que ser cuestiones que le lleven a un aprendizaje colaborativo y que términos de comunicación. Finalmente, por hilar con lo que comentará Marc, es cierto que el alumno tiene que vivir una experiencia en el centro lo más parecido a lo que se pasará en el mundo real, ¿no? Y definitivamente esto es como tenemos que construir esta experiencia.
Y en eso estamos. Fuerte aplauso, por favor, para Cristian Martí Pérez Carrión. Muchísimas gracias. Doy la bienvenida en este momento y le invito a subir al escenario, por favor, a Roberto Prata, que es subdirector del colegio SEC Catalunya International School. Por favor, aplauso para Roberto también.
Bueno, gracias, Esther. Bueno, tengo el placer de presentar a Marc hoy. Marc Prensky is known around the world for having coined the controversial term digital natives. In his book, Teaching Digital Natives, Partnering for Real Learning, Marc analyzed in depth the differences that separated those of us who were born in the analog world of paper and typography from those who were born in a universe dominated by the virtual and by digital communications. But his contribution was not only to certify this monumental change. Rather, once this transformation was confirmed, his concern was to understand how digital media, applications, and tools could empower them, give them a greater degree of agency, and connect them with the real problems they had to face in order to solve them. In his later works, From Digital Natives to Digital Wisdom, Hopeful Essays for the 21st Century Learning, Marc spoke of digital wisdom and of the need to turn what is almost an accidental status, that of being a digital native, into a systematically developed system of competencies so that our young people could get the most out of their status. In total, Marc has published 10 books, and in recent times, his books Education to Better Their World, Unleashing the Power of the 21st Century Kids, and his very latest book, Empowered, Reframing Growing Up for a New Age, he has poured all his reflection on curriculum redesign, on the need to rethink our pedagogical frameworks, on the obligation to create spaces, which he calls impact hubs, in which students are faced with the resolution of real challenges, with a profound social impact, and in which digital technologies are fundamental support that they can use to solve these challenges. Marc has spoken in more than 40 countries around the world, and following his work and his reflections is like having a sure north to follow in such a complex and changing landscape as that of educational technology. At SEC Institution, and especially the Segovia family, we've had a long-standing relationship with Marc, which goes back for many years. We have been privileged to have his advice in the redesigning of our spaces, our curricula, and our technologies. It is an honor and a pleasure to have him with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marc Prensky.
Hola Barcelona, hola España, y hola Catalunya. I was last in this city of Barcelona 60 years ago. I was here during the time which I hope many of you weren't born of Francisco Franco. I was a student in southern Spain, and I was a guitarist, and I loved flamenco music. So I said, okay, on my free time, I'm going to hitchhike from Aix-en-Provence to Barcelona so that I can hear some real flamenco music. And I did it, first time on my own ever. And I got to Barcelona, somehow I found a hotel. And the first thing they said to me was, "You're going to have to give us your passport." I didn't want to give anybody my passport. They said, "No, that's the law. You've got to do that." Okay. Then I said, "I'm going out. How do I get back in? Where's my key?" They said, "Oh, no, you don't need a key. Just clap." I don't know what's going on. So I went out anyway, and I had a good time, and I got a little borracha and or baracho, whatever, and I came back late at night, and it's very quiet, and it's nothing. It's all dark, and I'm standing in front of this door. I don't know what to do, and so I kind of clap. Nothing happens. No lights go on. Nothing happens. And as I'm standing there, way down a couple of blocks around, a policeman starts coming around the corner. And I'm thinking, "Oh, no, Guardia Civil, no, I don't want that." I go hide in the corner, in the shadows. Policeman goes away. I come out again. Even more scared, even darker. A little clap. Nothing happens. Wait a little bit. Policeman starts coming around the corner. I go hide in the shadows. That could have been my whole night. But then a couple came back to the place next door to where I was staying, and they came and they clapped. And guess what? That policeman, who turned out to be a Serrano, came around, and he had all the keys to all the houses on the block, and he opened up their house, and I called him over. He opened up my house, and that was great. And so I finally got in. The reason I tell this story, first of all, it's nice that that time of control of the Serranos, of where you had to control the streets, is over. I understand that those guys no longer exist. But we are still in a time of control of young people, of our young people. And that's been a very long period. And so what is happening, just as happened in Spain, where the period of control came to an end, I think what's happening in this time that we are living through is that the period of strict controlling of our young people is starting to end. And so they're becoming what I call empowered all over the world. And I am here today to tell you why that's a good thing. Because not everybody thinks that. So I'm going to make a wild guess. I'm going to say that you are here either because you make technology and have technology that you want to sell to schools. And if you're in that group, please say, ole. Okay. A couple of you, okay, not a big ole. And the remainder, or most of you, are here because you want to buy technology and use it in education. If that's you, say ole. A little bigger ole. If you're neither of those things, say ole. Okay, anyway. Bienvenidos a todos. So I'm glad you're all here. The thing that I think is that we're not in different groups. We're all in one group. And it's full room, and it's really nice to see. We're all in the group that wants to help kids, young people. So if you're in that group, please say, ole. Ole. Okay, that's my group. Good. The old arena for bullfighting is next door. That's where I learned to say ole. But let me suggest something further. We're not just here because we want to help kids. I think we're here because we want to help kids move into their future. Ole? Ole. Okay. Years ago, when I first came to Barcelona, for example, we knew how to do that. Why did we know? Because the world didn't change very much. Because we grew up at a time when the parents knew what they were going to do, and the grandparents, they had lived the world. It wouldn't change. The kids would live in more or less the same world, a few changes. And so we would know what to expect for them, and we would know that we could give them all the wisdom and all the things that we had learned that were important. We could just give that to them. And we did. And it took years of us to do that. We called it education. And the more you got of that education, the better off you were. And so here's a picture of what we formerly did. We put stuff into kids' heads. We put it into their heads as parents. We put our values, we put our ideas, we put our feelings. We did it as educators. We put our content and our curriculum that we thought was going to be helpful into kids' heads. We did it as culture. We put all the things that we thought kids should and shouldn't do into the kids' heads. And so that was how we controlled kids. We put things into their heads. But now the kids are moving into a new world. And it's a world where the old stuff, all that stuff that we put into their heads, isn't working as well. It doesn't work as well in the new world as it did in the old world. They have to invent new solutions. But here's the problem. Because we've spent so much time controlling them, they don't have enough self-confidence to invent this new solutions, the new things they need. Because what gives self-confidence is not content. What gives self-confidence is accomplishment. And this is something Thomas Carlyle said in the 19th century. He was a Scottish philosopher. Nothing builds self-esteem and self-confidence like accomplishment. An accomplishment especially that you choose, that you want to do. Well, I think humanity's needs, in a sense, have outpaced education. That's why we're all so concerned about how to do it. Humanity needs new things. We have to catch up. It's time that we stopped controlling our kids. Now we have to bring things out of kids. So instead of just putting things into kids, we have to figure out how to bring things out. And that's not an easy change. And I spoke with kids yesterday. We were talking, and they said, oh, no, don't you need everything in before you can put something out? And the answer is no, you don't. Because we all start with who we are. We see the world. We interact with the world. We interact with people. And there's lots of things that come out, which in the old world of putting things in, we tended to tamp down. So now we have to change because education has almost no real world accomplishment as part of it. It has almost no self-direction. We tell people where to go. We tell them what to do. We tell them when to do it. Same for EdTech. It has no real accomplishment either. So in more and more places, we're in these situations. Our kids they grew up in multiple worlds. We used to grow up, we only had two worlds we could grow up in. We could grow up on Earth or we could grow up in our imagination. Now we have a third world. Now we have the cloud. A whole new world has opened up. The kids have powerful symbiotic body parts. A lot of people call these, I don't have my phone here, they call them tools. They're not tools, they're body parts. It's symbiosis that's happening. It's not that you've got humans on the one side and technology on the other side. We're coming together in a symbiosis. And whatever this technology part of us is, I guarantee you in 20 years it's going to be 1 billion times more powerful. So the symbiosis is going to be much, much stronger. And because of that, our young people have enormous, enormous new capabilities. They can connect with every person who is connected to the web. They can connect with every person on the planet. And I tell people, Greta Thunberg, whom you all know about, if she really wanted to provide change, she could get every single young person in the world to go on strike permanently from school until something got done about the climate. That's the power she has. She hasn't used it yet, but think of the disruption that that would cause, and maybe we'd actually get some kind of action. So as a result, they also know that they can do this. Not all of them know that yet. And it's part of our job, and certainly I think of it as my job, to help them understand that they could do this. So let me just show you a video of something that we could do that is already done. This is from Design for Change, and these are 3-year-olds. They have a problem. They can't reach the garbage bins. These are 3-year-olds changing the world in their own little sphere. Think about older kids. Think about the kids who are out tracking Elon Musk's airplane or the oligarchs' airplanes around the world. They have enormous, enormous new power. They can do enormous, important things, and the problem is often we don't let them. We control them. We put things into them and into them and into them, and we control them. We say, do this, do that, do the other thing, because this is what we think is good. And you know how I know this is true? Because I discovered the worst thing that you can say to a parent or to a teacher, if you really want to hurt them, you say, your kids are out of control. You've lost control. That's what we say. That's the worst insult that we can use. But just as Franco's time came to an end, this period of control is coming to an end, and we all want to give our kids good guidance. But good guidance is now letting things out of kids' heads and not putting them into heads. It's time we helped our young people understand how to do this, how to get these things out, that they can do it, that they're able to do it. It's time to put things into action and to get to this. The way we do that is by letting them choose and accomplish real-world projects. Empowerment is self-direction, you choose, nobody chooses for you, and accomplishment with impact. You know how I got here? How I reached this conclusion? I just stopped looking at the education system. I stopped saying, oh, how can I incrementally change this? How can I add this? How can I add STEM or STEAM or technology or emotional or social learning? And I started looking at the kids. And what I saw is that they're going to need something different in the mid to late 21st century. They're not going to need content. They're not going to need learning. They're not that partially helps. But what they're going to need is the ability to accomplish stuff in the real world. If they learn in the process of doing that, fantastic. But they don't have to learn it all before they accomplish. What we do is what counts, and that's going to be the key element of accomplishment. We need to move from education, which is what we think we do and which we did very successfully in the 20th century. We need to move to empowerment. I call it growing up empowered. And that's the name of the program that we're doing at the SEC International School, SEC Catalunya, and that's what I write about in my book. But now comes the real question, how do we do it? That's what we all want to know. Can technology, which is what we're all here about, can that help empower kids? And not just giving them content. And my answer is yes, of course it can. And we can. We can help empower kids. And that's what we need to be doing with the EdTech, or as I once saw it called EduTech, so I might say that on a slide. That's what we need to be doing, is empowering kids. Right now, what do? We say, how can we give kids the most content in the shortest period of time and the widest spread possible? And we all know the term for that, scale. I live in Silicon Valley. That's all we hear. Scale, scale, scale. We want to get to scale. EduTech is all about, or EdTech is all about scale. And we're getting scale, and people are investing hundreds of billions of dollars now in EduTech. Oh my God, we might actually get to scale. We can do much, much, much better. Our goal can't be to scale content, because the content is not what we need anymore. That's maybe what people are buying. I absolutely understand that. And that may be what people are investing in. I absolutely understand that. But that's not what the kids need. They need to go here, to put their own minds together symbiotically with the technology in order to bring the things out that are going to solve the problems that they see in the world. And God knows, if you're a young person, you see problems. So we need technology that helps that helps them accomplish real projects with real results, with measurable positive impact on the world, and that makes the world better. So I'm proposing that we create something better than EdTech or EduTech. I'm proposing that we create Empotech, empowering technology, technology that empowers kids. And what do I mean by that? I mean that with this technology, the young people can accomplish positive things in the world. Right now, they don't. Education doesn't have a positive impact on the world. They go to school for 20 years, and what can they point to? I got a little knowledge, I got some seat time, I got a degree. And I'm now qualified for more education. Terrific. But how is this going to help? You know, it's interesting because we thought in the 20th century that education was going to really help. And everybody probably has heard Nelson Mandela's comment, education is the most powerful weapon we have to change the future. Yeah, in the 20th century it was, because we didn't have anything better. Now we have empowerment. We have something better. And how do we know it hasn't worked? How many of you are familiar with the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations? We teach them to all the kids. We're trying to spread that around. You know what those are? Those are the epic fails of our generation. We don't have clean water. We don't have equality. We didn't get this. We didn't get this. That's what the kids call epic fails. Now it's their turn, and they're going to have to do something about it. And it's not just education that's going to do it, in my view. Not delivering more content in new ways with new technology to new people that's going to really help these kids. How many kids like sitting in front of Zoom calls? We just went through this pandemic. Nobody liked it. My son, at least he got to spend his junior year or his sophomore year lying in bed. That was what he was happy. But when he got back, he couldn't He didn't know what he was supposed to do. So I've become more and more convinced that we need to move to Empotech, technology that empowers teams of young people to do real-world projects with impact. And when I say teams, we live in a world where those teams don't even have to live in the same country. They don't have to be anywhere near each other because they're connected. Because we've got to figure, well, we don't have the technology to do that. We don't have the technology to say, okay, I'm going to join my team that has somebody from every different continent on the world. But we're starting to learn how to do this. And the people from Design for Change who we're working with at the SEC International School at SEC Catalunya, they have a wonderful methodology for this. They've invented something called Feel, Imagine, Do, Share. And they do projects. They've done tens of thousands. And then everybody says to me, lots of educators, well, yeah, but how are we going to assess it? How are we going to measure that? And I said, there's a very simple way. It's called before and after. What can you point to in your world that said, see that? Last year, it was not good, or it didn't exist. And now, because of what I did and my team did, look at how much better it is. We don't have to rank them. We don't have to do anything like that. We just have to have them happen over and over again, these empowering projects. We have thousands of them. And where do they exist? Not much in schools. Some through Design for Change. They exist in Scouts. They exist in 4-H. They exist in a bunch of different kinds of places because they don't exist in schools, because they don't do this. And so what kind of things do we want to build? What is Empotech? It's like worldwide teams. We just need technology that makes that happen. We need software, and they have some of this in companies. Inside companies, people are doing this. They have it. Just hasn't made it into the education world, but connects them with the problems. So imagine if every company was connected to a series of young people that helped them solve some of their internal problems. And there could be simultaneous translation, which we're finally starting to see. We spent all these years teaching this language and that language and which language and that. It's going away. It's this. We can all talk to each other. And there are people who, of course, are already doing this. It's new types of collaboration tools. It's how do we work across time zones effectively. You know, when software projects get done now, they get passed from time zone to time zone. One time zone checks them out of GitHub, they work on them, they check them back in to the vault, next time zone works on them. We could be doing that stuff with young people. Again, how do we make our Greta Thunbergs into a combination of Elon Musk and Mahatma Gandhi? That should be our goal. You know, the young people are coming into symbiosis. They're just getting there. You know, look at them with their smartphones. Now, a lot of people say, oh my God, look at how much time they're spending on their smartphones. We should take them away. We got to make them more human. We got to go back to what they were. No, those are new body parts. And if you take away a young person's mobile phone, you are cutting off a body part. Ouch! And it can be used badly, there's no question. But if a young person uses their fist to punch somebody in the face, I don't think we're going to cut off their hand. Right? We're going to say, no, there's better ways to use your hand. That's what we're going to do. So these young people, when people say they're addicted to them, I say, no, they're preparing themselves for the future. They see what the future is going to be. We don't have to make all these courses in digitalization and digital this and that. They're doing it on their own. When we say take away the distractions, oh, we need to do this, no, we're just taking away parts of their body. So Empotech is the technology that's going to help them fix these problems around the world. And it's the technology that's it's not just the person anymore that we're interested in. It's not just that human being, because the human being has evolved. In the 20th century, the human being is part technology. That's just how it is. And the kids all know it. A lot of us have not figured that out yet. So how do we get this idea of Empotech? Well, I want you to do something. Figure out, close your eyes. Everybody, if you will bear with me, close your eyes. Think about a time when you were young. Think about a time when you wanted to do something and you knew you could do it. You knew you were ready to do it, but an adult told you, no, you're not ready. It's not time. You can't. They stamped you down. Or when you thought you could do something that solved a problem that you saw, but somebody told you no. And it doesn't have to be technology that exists. The question is, what technology might help you do that? What technology might help you solve some problem in the world that you had? And you can open your eyes, and how many of you thought of something that you could have had if you were a young person to help you do that? Maybe some of you did. That's what Empotech is. That's what we need to invent. We need this model. And when you ask somebody what did Prensky say, this is what Prensky said. Draw it on a napkin, right? We used to put stuff in. We need to bring things out. And to do that, we need to change our perspective. We need to reframe the world. Right now, we see what our young people's goal is learning. That's what education is about. Learning, 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 learning. What did you learn in school today? How much did you learn? How do we measure how much you learned? Are you learning the right things? No. We want our goal to be accomplishing. Learning is a byproduct of accomplishing. Learning is something we do in the process. It's not bad, it's very good, but it's not something we have to do for years and years and years before we can accomplish something. And so that's why my book is entitled Reframing Growing Up for a New Age. It's about thinking about all these things, the world and what it is and what kids need, looking at them in new ways. So many people are worried about technology. Will we get it fast enough to the kids? Will it take over their jobs? What's going to happen? I don't worry at all. First, I don't worry because I love looking at the young people and I know they're going to get there. Second, we're not going to run out of things. Here's what we're not going to run out of. I don't care how much AI, artificial intelligence, I don't care how much technology and automation we have, we're not going to run out of dreams to realize, because everybody has dreams. We're not going to run out of problems to fix, because we're humans and we create problems. We're not going to run out of people who need help. And mostly, we're not going to run out of people who want to realize dreams and fix problems and help other people. That's the future of humanity. All the other stuff, a lot of the other stuff will be done by automation, which is in many cases, and probably most cases, just fine. But unless we wipe out humanity, which, it's a 50-50 kind of thing some days, that's what the future is going to be. And so where do we do it? I think we need to invent something called empowerment hubs. And Roberto called them impact hubs. It's probably the same thing. It's a place where young people can go either during the day, instead of school, or inside of school, or after school, when they go to Scouts, when they go to this, or even better, in the cloud, where they do projects, project after project after project, that have measurable positive impact on the world, that they can point to and say, this didn't exist, now it exists, it's much better. That becomes their resume. And when they go to get work, they can say, look, these are the projects, these are not my grades, who cares? Talk to the Google person sitting over there. They don't look at your grades anymore, they want to know what you accomplished. They want your resume of accomplishments. And that is what gives you self-satisfaction. And it also is what helps you figure out who you are, what you like. Because we are individuals because of the personal projects we choose to do. That's what makes us individual. Do we choose to take care of our families? Do we choose to fix certain problems? Do we choose to do that? That is what makes each of us an individual. So we're starting to create these empowerment hubs. And one of the reasons that I'm so happy to be here in Catalonia is that I'm working with SEC Catalunya to think about how we can bring empowerment hubs into their schools. But I think they can be everywhere. They can be, and what we've done is we've put together a global ministry, big words, global ministry of empowerment, accomplishment, and impact, which is me and a few other people who think this way, who want to help everybody do this. So that's what we're going to do. And if you want to know more about what's in empowerment hubs and how they're different from schools, take out your phone and take a picture of this. I'm not going to run through this kind of thing. That's what we do these days. I hope some of you have had your phones out the whole time. You'll get the slides. Don't worry about it. But there are very big differences between academic schools with their focus on learning and empowerment hubs with their focus on accomplishment. And so you can get this information. Here is, if you want to join our network, again, you get your cameras out, take another picture. This is the network we're building up of people who want to be empowered, who want to empower kids. I hope it will grow. We don't know how to do it. I'm sure it's going to be different in SEC Catalunya and other Catalunya schools and other Spanish schools in places all around the world. But the goals are the same. Self-direction and accomplishment with positive impact. So that's a new and better way to grow up in the 21st century, and that's what my book is about. I hope you'll get it, read it. If you do, give me feedback, send me things. And to make it easier for you, in the bags that you were given here, the people from SEC Catalunya were kind enough, or from SEC International, were kind enough to print up the first chapter in English and in Spanish, and hopefully soon in Catalan. So I hope you'll read it, and I hope you'll think about it, and I hope you'll think about young people in a different way, and how young people have to grow up in order to succeed in the mid to late 21st century. And then I hope you'll go on to create Empotech. Create it because it doesn't exist today. We want it. I hope you will create the very best Empotech the world has ever seen. I salute you.